Hey guys, welcome to this week's teaching. Last week I promised you more structured and detailed teachings and all involving inner child. And what I want to say to you about that is that inner child healing is how we get to our higher self. Inner child healing is how we get to exaltation and wholeness, right? And so when you're trying to kind of dissect this and figure out what the end goal is for you, for this teaching, for our community in general, it's being able to live and operate from that higher self place, right? And it all has to do with inner child healing. So really excited for you to really just dive into this series and let every day just be really open to what comes up and what you learn and how this moves forward. Couple quick announcements. If you have not joined my free inner child experience, I highly encourage you to do so. I definitely want you there. It's a free 90-minute workshop. And it's just so detailed, so in-depth, so beautiful, awakening. And I've created a really unique path to access and start to understand your inner child. So join me there. And don't forget, I have my Dragon's Lair community, which is a beautiful community. It's kind of like a healing sanctuary, a place where our inner child becomes our higher self, but both are accepted exactly as they are. Our shadows become accepted and whole. Our darkness swirls with the light. Our process becomes playful. It's such a beautiful place to be. And next week, I'm going to share a little bit about what one of the founding members said about the group and why it touched me so much, and also why it just solidified for me why Dragon's Lair was kind of the name and energy we needed to bring to the table. So that's a really fun story. I'm going to save that for next week though. Today, as we tune in to this next part of the Inner Child series, I really want you to just, as you listen, be in the presence of your inner child. Have that awareness. Even if you don't understand inner child work, you don't believe in any of this, right? But you have like an urge that maybe there's something for you here. Wherever you're at, I just want you to tune in and just let yourself be with the possibility that there is this beautiful inner child within you that encompasses the whole of yourself, with no shame, with no guilt, with no judgment, just that purity of love and innocence. And that's what I want you to try to access and feel into today as I talk about today's first topic, which is really what we're grounded into, our belief system, and how that's shaping our world and life. Sorry, I've got to take off my shoes. I can just like get really here with you guys. All right. So today, right? And this comes up in all different types of spirituality, psychology, therapy, and it's always called something different. But what I'm getting into is what really happens for the inner child from the womb up until 18 months of life. And this is where we really hone in onto who and what we are and how kind of a lot of our beliefs are shaped. Okay, so we talked about last week how your inner child is basically like this pure vessel of love and light and purity, right? So if you imagine your inner child, right, as your soul comes into your body, that essence, the first kind of breath into humanness, this pure divine cosmic being now in this human vessel, that is your inner child. And if we imagine that inner child as a beautiful, big, white, blank canvas, okay? And every single experience, every sound we hear, every word we hear, every thought we think starts to paint on this canvas. And it paints the picture of who we think we are, right? And these can be what we might call negative or positive things. And if you remember last week, I really asked you to come from a place of no judgment, of neutrality, of not looking at anything in your life as good, bad, right, or wrong, but just simply saying, this is what's happening right now. This is what's feeling. This is what's coming up right now. It doesn't mean I'm good. It doesn't mean I'm bad. It doesn't mean I'm ugly. It doesn't mean I'm beautiful. It just means I'm here right now having this human experience, right? So this painted canvas, right? Maybe in the first 18 months of life, maybe the moment you came into the womb, you felt complete distress. Maybe your mom was not ready for you, and maybe she told your dad and he got really mad and yelled. And immediately You felt, number one, the energy of mom's distress, dad's anger. You heard the loud sound of the yelling. You now have an imprint, a stripe on your canvas of the world is a scary place. I'm not wanted here. Maybe you had this beautiful experience in the womb and these loving parents who wanted you so much, and you came out, and maybe getting you out of the womb was kind of hard. And one of the tools they used to get you out fell onto the floor and crashed, and there was this big bright light. And maybe somebody's gasped in startleness, and you felt maybe the anxiety of one of the nurses in the room. Marks on your canvas, right? All throughout your childhood, your experience of both words and all senses, the knowing, the inner feeling, the energy, the smells, they shape who you think you are. If your mom's going through some deep turmoil and doesn't have confidence or self-esteem, and maybe she can't nurture you the way that she needed to, and she feels this deep shame because she loves you so much, but she can't meet your needs. And so number one, you're left to support and meet your own needs, even from this baby, right? That's still just months, weeks old. And number two, you feel your mom's deep sense of shame. And so you take those in and they paint your canvas. And the unlearning of this is why we do inner child work. There are a million different possibilities, and that's why all of us are so unique. That's why I have 2 children. Okay, I'm going to get personal for a second. I have 2 children, and they both experienced, those of you who know my story know that the first 5 years of those beautiful souls' life was complete shit and trauma and darkness. They both experienced the trauma and the pain. They both dealt with it and responded to it in very, very different ways. Every single stroke on both of their canvases was very different. One of them is very internal and thinks and is silent and doesn't let themselves attach to others. The other one is very also internal, but likes to speak more about it, with me in particular, and is very attached and over codependent on others. Okay, my kids have been unlearning their trauma since they were 5. They've been in therapy, one of them for 9 years now, and one of them for 7 years now. They have been unlearning this. We've been processing, we've been talking, and it's taken that long for these sweet babies to kind of be able to shade over their canvas, right? We can't ever totally erase it, but what we can do is we can create something different out of it. And so we all respond to all these different traumas. It doesn't matter if we're in the same household. That's why you maybe experience your dad as this really mean, aggressive person, and you have this hate and desire to set all these boundaries against him. And then maybe your older sister is in a more place of like complacency, like it is what it is. I'm not really going to deal with it, but he's our dad. I can't really fix it. And she kind of gives in, and it creates this tension between you two, right? We have to understand that all of us get to paint these canvases exactly how we want in totally different ways. And none of it is good, bad, right, or wrong. But what happens when you turn 18 and older, it is now your responsibility to decide what your canvas represents to you, what it means to you, what lens you view it through. And today, what we're talking about is going back to those first core beliefs that formed and starting to question them, right? When I was a school administrator and teacher, one of the biggest things that I noticed and I saw is kids so scared to break away. I was always in the roughest school districts. And so in one district in particular, there was a ton of gang violence. And all of the kids, like, I was just that administrator that they could go to where they just felt so safe. They all called me Mama Stock. That was my last name at the time. And we forged this deep bond. But through these deep conversations that I had with these kids, one thing I learned was, particularly if I'm talking about just like the gang life for a second, their families had always operated in a certain way. And these kids, they felt this call to do something different, to be something, I'm not going to say better, but just like different, to have a different kind of lifestyle where they worked for themselves, they built something for themselves, and it wasn't always violence and danger and drugs. And what ended up happening is they would you could feel, sense, listen to the words they were saying, and they so badly wanted to break away. But there was such a deep sense of connection and loyalty. And who am I if I'm not part of this? Right? And one thing that I always say is that you are not who your family needs you to be. You are not your family's perception of you, and your family's belief system doesn't have to be yours. And this is where we have to start unplugging, right? Maybe for you, your parents were all very religious. And so here you go, you start to question all these beliefs, and maybe there's all of these attacks thrown at you about maybe you're going to be condemned, you'll be disowned, you're wrong, you're bad, you're ignorant, whatever it could have been. And you start to internalize them. And so when you go to break away and things kind of get hard for a minute, as they always do in healing, and you start to question and doubt yourself. And this is where we really have to just go inside and look at our family's beliefs as separate from us, any beliefs in the world as separate from us, and always a choice. It's just a palette of colors that you can choose to paint on your canvas or not. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. You have to also know that them being mad about you disengaging from their beliefs is just a reflection of what's painted on their canvas. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It might not be fair to you, and that's okay. And that's why you claim your authority and you set the boundaries, right? But we don't have to be mean and nasty about it. We can just say, hey, that's your opinion, that's your belief system. I'm not going to subscribe to it. And if you don't want me around, that hurts my heart, but I understand. But you're not going to call me bad, and you're not going to say mean things to me. If you want me in your life, this is my belief system and this is yours, and that's okay. Right? But we can always have this big, soft, ooey gooey heart and still be firm in our beliefs as we break away. But that's why this first part of inner child work is so important, because if you're not very clear on what beliefs you had and where they came from, and really unplugging them and choosing something new, then it's so easy to get topsy-turvy. The first time somebody in your family says the exact thing that makes you doubt yourself, you're going to be like, oh, I messed up. But you didn't, right? You can't. We're just painting on our canvas, and there's always room to make it into something new. So we have to start this cycle by first, and remember, this whole series, we're going to go step by step. So all I want you to focus on today is not this whole big picture. I want you to just focus on the small little tasks I give to you today. And then next week, we'll go deeper. Okay. So this week, what we're going to start doing is we're going to start turning into that inner child. And we're going to just start noticing some of our fears, some of our anxieties, some of our heavier emotions, and some of our beliefs. And we're going to start asking, we're just being really inquisitive about it. Where did I form this? Is this true for me now? Is this in alignment with what I truly believe, right? And you can start small. You can start with something really silly, like maybe the way that your mom taught you to make the bed. Do I believe in making the bed every day or not? Do I believe in making it this way? You can go deeper things, right? Do I really believe in the same God as my parents, my family, my society, right? Do I have this view of pain or this view of pain? What feels morally wrong and right to me? And we just start questioning. And the reason it's such an array of questions is because I don't know where you're at in your life. You have to go into, okay, if this is what's showing up in my life, I've got to figure out if this particular set of beliefs is in alignment to me. And for this week, what I really want you to do is start at the roots. Look at your culture, look at your family life, look at your really early childhood experiences, look at where your parents are now, look at where your siblings are now, and just question the fuck out of everything. And it doesn't need to be this big mental game. It's just a notice. And it doesn't mean shaming others or shaming ourselves or judging others or judging ourselves. It's simply, okay, I see this. This is the information I have in front of me. If we can approach these weeks together as simply data collection and choosing to do something with that data and really taking those deep feelings out of it for now, I promise we're going to get to the feelings, right? But sometimes when we have the feelings come up and all this mental energy, we can get swept away. And we don't want to do that right now. Right now, this step, we're just collecting data. We're not blaming anybody. We're not having hard conversations. We're simply collecting data. Get a handy dandy notebook and bring it with you everywhere. I notice every time I swipe, this is my own personal story, by the way, I had to heal this for years. Every time I swipe my credit card, I feel anxiety. Why? What's going on? Well, I realized that growing up, every single time we went grocery shopping, even though my mom had like a decent job and was, you know, she was still a single mom and she still had all these stresses. Every time she swiped her cards at the grocery store, she would be like, oh shit, I hope that gets approved. And I could feel her anxiety because I was an empath and I didn't know how to control and disconnect from other people's emotions and mine. And so every time I swiped the card, all the way up until I was 26 years old, I would feel this dread. It didn't matter how much money I had in my bank account, I would feel dread. And I had to go back to that belief system and unsubscribe for it. We'll get into unsubscribing later. But what I would do if I was you in that moment, I would say, okay, every time I swipe my card, I feel anxiety. Write it down. Card swiping equals anxiety. Cool. That's it. No judgment. Nothing's wrong with you. We don't need to figure it out right now. Just that's where it's at. I notice every time I'm in a tight room with a lot of people, I feel awkward. Okay, cool. I'm going to write that down. Whatever, good, bad, right, or wrong. If it makes you feel joyful, if it makes you feel icky, write it down. Let's observe it. Let's collect the data. The whole point is as we begin to question this belief system, we start to see all the ways that kind of the world shaped us to be, right? Our family, our earliest childhood memories, our earliest childhood experiences. And what it does is it gives us knowledge, which gives us empowerment, which gives us choice, which gives us an ability to choose to change things for ourselves. That's all we're doing here. Inner child work isn't about blaming people or making people bad or wrong. It's about taking radical self-responsibility and really allowing yourself to face all of your beliefs head on and then to make decisions from there. We're going to learn so much together. I know it feels hard. I know it feels scary. I know there's probably so many thoughts going through your brain, and it's all okay. And I'm right here with you. Like I said at the beginning, you can always join our Dragon's Lair community. It's only $22 a month, and we do really beautiful support processing sessions every month, full moon rituals every single month, and we have a monthly book club where we all read personal development books together and talk about them at the end. It's such a beautiful community. So if you're feeling a lot as you listen to this, if you want more support through it, join our community. But I will also be back next week and every other week to take us the next step in our journey, to be able to really learn more about these beliefs and what to do with them. So remember, this week you're just observing, you're collecting all the data, you're writing it down, and we're starting to just question all the things right now. Amazing work today. Thank you so much for joining me. It means the world that you invest your time and energy here. As always, breathe deep and plan on miracles.